Ladies and gentlemen, MAGA Republicans have left the building. Yup, MAGA Republicans decided to take an early Thanksgiving break after behaving in the most unprofessional, bizarre, dangerous manner, I guess, just like MAGA Republicans. MAGA Republican Kevin McCarthy elbowed MAGA Republican Tim Burchett in the kidney. MAGA Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen challenged a labor leader witness to a fight during a committee hearing. Marjorie Taylor Greene yelled at the Republican FBI director Christopher Wray for not following her Twitter account. It is pure MAGA madness. And everything I just said and more happened over the last 24 hours. Speaking of pure madness, it starts at the top with MAGA. New audio of Donald Trump was released moments ago by CNN in an interview with Jonathan Karl and Donald Trump. MeidasTouch host Karen Friedman-Agnifilo was on CNN when the exclusive audio dropped. In the clip, Donald Trump brags about wanting to go to the Capitol building on January 6th and being prevented from doing so by the Secret Service. Donald Trump said on this audio recording we will play here that he would have been well received by the rioters, and you should have saw the crowd, how big the crowd is. Okay. This follows other audio from Karl's book where Trump discusses a plan to remove President Biden during his first term in office. But you see, the plan is just too complicated to explain to Jonathan Karl. We'll talk about that and more. More MAGA madness. That's the theme of this show. The House Ethics Committee released a devastating report on MAGA Republican George Santos, finding that he engaged in numerous crimes, from false financial disclosures to stealing money and using it on, get this, memberships to OnlyFans accounts that he was a member of. George Santos has announced now he will not be running for re-election in 2024, although that's probably a lie, the same way he lied about cooperating with the Ethics Committee. That was one of the lies that they pointed out. He said he's cooperated with us. He's not cooperating with us. And also, I expect that he's actually going to enter into a plea agreement with the DOJ soon. He's dead to rights, so watch for that. So from madness to stability, President Biden held a successful high-stakes summit in California with President Xi of China, where the world leaders agreed to restore high-level military communications, combat fentanyl, and hold a dialogue about artificial intelligence. Now, President Biden approached this summit with considerable leverage. I know legacy media isn't talking about this, but this is why their legacy, and this is now. Let's take a look at economic data. Look, for the first time in 40 years, the United States economy is outpacing China's economy. Let's just say that again, and you could repeat that to your friends, family members, and coworkers. It's backed by data. I'm going to repeat it again. For the first time in 40 years, the U.S. economy is outpacing China's economy. China's economy size has slipped to 64% of the size of the U.S. economy under the Bidenomics plan. The U.S. now leads all G7 nations in GDP growth and has the lowest inflation of all G7 nations. And in the United States, unemployment is under 4% for 21 straight months, the longest stretch in 50 years. This all in addition to the fact that 14 million jobs have been added under the Biden presidency and 4.9% GDP growth, which was announced last month. And we'll go through and we'll talk about how the price of eggs and other things are dropping dramatically as well. This is good economic news, not spike the football, but let's just acknowledge what the actual data is. Then let's discuss what's going on with the various criminal prosecutions and civil cases involving Donald Trump, that and more here on the MeidasTouch Podcast. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Brett and Jordy Meiselas. And I think it's so important that we contrast the MAGA madness with normalcy. We contrast democracy with dictatorship. And we have to look at it in those terms right now. I know legacy media wants to talk about, oh, progressive, left-leaning this, and then these are conservatives. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, Donald Trump, the MAGA movement, which isn't a cohesive political party of George Santos and James Comer and Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz. Those are the leaders. That is not conservative. That is madness, brothers.
Ben, first off, it's great to see you. It's great to see Jordy. It's great to see the Meidas Mighty. I'll give the Meidas Mighty here a little bit of a window into our day yesterday, which I think completely sums up the chaos of these MAGA Republicans because, we're following the actions, the reporting that's coming out of the halls of Congress, and we hear about this Kevin McCarthy incident. Kevin McCarthy elbowed Tim Burchett in the kidneys. He sucker punched him. Then he ran away, and Tim Burchett chased him. And Ben is like, no pun intended, I got to do a hit on that. And so Ben starts, doing his hit for the MeidasTouch Network to deliver his report to everybody. And by the time Ben finishes recording his piece, which was maybe 10 minutes or so, there was another fight. There was another fight. This time in the other chamber, this time in the Senate with Mark Wayne Mullen. And I said, Ben, there's a fight. He was like, yeah, no, I just covered it. I said, no, there was another fight there. Mark Wayne Mullen tried to attack the president of the Teamsters. And Ben's like, you're messing with me. What are you talking about? I said, no, here's the clip. Our researcher, Asen, got the clip from the halls, from the Senate of Mark Wayne Mullen trying to attack the president of the Teamsters. And that's the Republican Party for you folks in 2023. It doesn't seem like they're going to get any better as we approach this new year, but it's going to be an episode of contrast here, that's for sure, where you see kind of leadership on the global stage, where you see, real serious politicians actually trying to get stuff done. And you see this party of Trump, this party that has just become so corrupted and just disgusting and laying it out to bear for all to see. And you know what? We are going to expose it all right here on the MeidasTouch Podcast. Jordy, always great to see you. What's new in your world?
So excited for tonight's show. When Ben was talking about the fights, I was scratching my head for a second. I'm like, we didn't talk about that on Monday? No, from the time of this recording, it's less than 24 hours basically when it actually had happened. And just thinking about that, like, this has been one of the longest news weeks of like MeidasTouch history almost. It's just been constant craziness. And so I'm excited to get into it. You're laughing because it's true, right, B?
I'm laughing because I know it's true. And I was thinking also, sorry, I don't know if you're talking to me or Ben, but like yesterday also. So we had an episode of Uncovered with Ron Filipkowski and Anthony Davis, which is a great show on the MeidasTouch Network. Make sure you're subscribed to that podcast and watch it here every Wednesday on the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. But so on Uncovered, they do that show live for 1 hour. Yeah. And after the hour also at the same time, Ron was like, I was like, okay, great show, Ron. He was like, yeah, we covered a lot. I said, here's what you missed in the hour while you were gone. And it was like 6 insane huge stories within that 1 hour of time. And I think when we live like the way we live right now in like these blocks of time, you realize how much is happening on not only a daily basis but an hourly basis. But Ben, what's new? What do we got rocking tonight?
Look, you talk about leadership. Leadership is so important. And when you look to the top of the MAGA Republicans, whether it's Donald Trump talking about eliminating vermin and praising Viktor Orban and Kim Jong-un, that sets a tone, that sets a culture. And I'll show you a culture that's set by people like Kevin McCarthy when he's Speaker of the House. When he was Speaker of the House, the most spineless Speaker of the House in American history. I want to show you what Kevin McCarthy said about George Santos, and then just how unserious, unprofessional. It isn't even like, oh, the Republicans. It's just unprofessional. It's so unbecoming to say things like this. In the clip I'm about to show you, Kevin McCarthy says that he would rather have George Santos be in charge of the United States than President Biden. Play this clip.
Mr. Speaker, first, a very quick question. Who has more power, Joe Biden or George Santos?
Well, right now, I think it is the president, Joe Biden, unfortunately.
He said, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker.
I mean the level of damage these people are causing to our country. It is enraging the amount of damage they are causing to our country. They are an atomic bomb of disinformation. And when you hear them say things like that, really, you'd rather have George Santos. And that's part of their other rising of Democrats. It's why you can't have any actual bipartisanship in the House of Representatives, where the incentive structure of MAGA Republicans is to act like total fools in committee hearings and on the House floor, because that's when you get invited to Fox and you get in front of the guy, or you get in front of Sean Hannity, and they put you on because you act like a fool. And in the meantime, Sean Hannity, and when Tucker was there, and Laura Ingraham and others, you look at their messages, they talk about their audience the way they claim that Democrats talk about their audience when Democrats don't give a crap and aren't talking about it. They're saying that their audience is idiots. They're saying their audience is morons, that you got to feed them all of these lies. That's what the text messages showed when they were released in the Discovery and the Dominion case, that Fox hates their audience and treats their audience with such disdain and acts and knows that they just say the meanest things about their audience. But it's all about the incentive structure. The incentive structure for Democrats, not only do Democrats have to deliver on the policies, if Democrats are not 100 for 100, what do you get? Splintering. Oh, President Biden let me down on this issue. Why did he let you down? Well, he said that all of my student loans would be forgiven, and he didn't do it. Well, you know, he tried to do it, but then the MAGA Republicans all filed lawsuits, and they were the ones who, well, I don't care. He didn't keep to his promise. I'm not support. Really, that one issue, you support him on all the other issues. He's not perfect. Meanwhile, you've got MAGA Republicans supporting George Santos and Marjorie Taylor Greene, talking about mass deportation and like concentration camps in the United States, which probably could include you or people that you know. They just talk about it outright right now, that's their plan. They give it fancy names. Oh, it's Project this or da-da-da-da. They talk about their plan for an authoritarian regime, but because President Biden is not absolutely perfect on one specific issue, but is otherwise pretty great and doing stewardship of all the issues that he said in a pretty worksmanlike manner, that's the issue. So let's talk about what's taken place over the past 24 hours with the lack of leadership. I'm not going back in time, weeks even, or months even. I'm showing you what went down the past freaking day. So the first one I want to show you is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's got key committee assignments because she was given them by Kevin McCarthy. By the way, can I ask this question about Kevin McCarthy? Why does he still use the @Speaker Kevin McCarthy handle? He's not the speaker anymore. And why does he still have the speaker security detail? @Speaker Kevin, could we all address that, please? You just get to call yourself @Speaker forever. But anyway, he appointed Marjorie Taylor Greene to these committees. It's really weird. And here Marjorie Taylor Greene yells at Christopher Wray, the FBI director. You know who appointed Christopher Wray as the FBI director? Donald Trump in 2017. You know who appointed Christopher Wray as an assistant United States attorney to head the criminal division about 20 years ago? George W. Bush. You want to know why? Because Christopher Wray's as a Republican as you get in a world of traditional Republicans. But MAGA is not Republicans. As President Biden says, that's not your parents or grandparents or perhaps your Republican Party anymore. So now Christopher Wray is a rhino. Bill Barr is a rhino. And the MAGAs yell at this guy like he is involved in deep state plots and all of the crazy things that they talk about on their Twitter and social media. And here, Marjorie Taylor Greene, again, on a key committee assignment, yells at the Republican FBI director for not following her Twitter account and then doesn't know what department he oversees. She thinks that he oversees the Department of Homeland Security, which is an entirely different department. It's so humiliating. Play the clip.
Were you aware of this? Congresswoman, as I said, I haven't seen the photos that you're holding up before.
Maybe, well, I posted them on my Twitter account. It's public. You know, maybe
I don't
you guys
spend a lot of time on Twitter.
Well, you know, oh, I'm sure you do, because the Department of Homeland Security, organized with other offices, has censored many Americans, including myself.
I'm not part of the Department of Homeland Security.
Right, Mr. Ray, you should be interested in investigating terrorism.
So is she calling herself a terrorist there, number one? And then Christopher Ray's sitting there and he's like trying not to laugh. And, you know, and I want to laugh at it. And I sometimes do laugh at it. But also, here's the thing. She is making life and death decisions for you, for your family, for your friends, for your neighbors, for this country. She is making decisions over your life, and she's taking away your freedoms. I mean, what was that?
It's like we always say on this show, these Republicans, they think legislating and leading the country is just them being on Twitter. Like we've said that multiple times. And this clip just reconfirms our notion that that's what they think leading is. It's unfreaking believable.
They believe themselves to be
Twitter. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
They think they're like the biggest celebrities in the world. They're unreal.
All of these Republicans think that they are social media influencers, or they prefer to be social media influencers rather than legislators. It's why whenever you see Ted Cruz tweet, he tweets only to promote his podcast. Like he'll be like, today I blindsided Chuck Schumer and those Democrats by releasing a new bill. Find out all about it on The Verdict with Ted Cruz. And it's like, dude, you're a United States senator. What are we even doing here? And in that short clip, Marjorie Taylor Greene whiffed like 4 to 6 times. Are you aware of this? No. But I posted it to my Twitter. I'm not on Twitter. Oh, I'm sure you do know this. No, I don't know this. Oh, well, the Department of Homeland Security certainly knows this. I'm not in the Department of Homeland Security. What are you talking about? And she just continues to go, like, her strategy is just, let's keep screaming and being loud, and then I'll be able to clip off these moments of me yelling at this guy, and then I'll put it on my social media, and everyone is going to go, oh, Marge, you really stuck it to the deep state. Then she'll get the invite to Fox. Then she'll get the invite to Newsmax and do her little media tour based around this one ridiculous moment where she will spike the football and pretend that she somehow won that argument, which we all saw she was absolutely humiliated by. Well, if she could actually feel any sort of humiliation, that is.
I want to show you this. I mean, look, again, this is the past 24 hours. This is from the same hearing. This is MAGA Republican Kamek. Am I saying her name right, Brett? Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, she wants. Let me just show you this clip of what she said during the same committee hearing to the DHS head Mayorkas. Play this clip.
Are you aware that on October 19th, 2020, the statement used by various media organizations and social media businesses to downplay and censor the Post reporting before the 2020 presidential election?
I'm sorry. With the indulgence of additional time, Mr. Chairman, could you ask that question just at a bit of a slower pace?
Are you aware that on October 19th, 2020, the statement was used, the statement that was signed by Brennan, Clapper, and Colby was used by multiple media organizations, social media businesses to downplay and censor the story about the Hunter Biden political influence right before the 2020 presidential election?
I am not tracking that, Congresswoman.
Wow. For as much time and effort as you are putting into a Homeland Intelligence experts group, that seems shocking that you wouldn't be tracking that.
Well, who was the president at that time?
Wow.
Who was the president in 2020? I don't know. Was it Donald Trump? Who was the attorney general? Bill Barr.
Mayorkas was not in office. Mayorkas was not in the government at the time. Why are you asking him? Why are you asking? You know what it is? It's like, I think we made a similar comparison before, but you have all these Republicans living in this conspiratorial fever dream at all times.
Everything's
like Jordy
a conspiracy
said,
to them.
they're terminally online. So they're in their own little algorithms. They're in their own bubbles. They are passing around these conspiracy theories to each other. They're trading Hunter Biden's nudes. They save those on their phones and send them to each
They
other.
always have it ready. They
always
always
have
have
it.
that ready to go.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm like,
some say it's like their screensavers too. Like just to
I'll
have
do a
that
post
quick.
all of a sudden within like 30 seconds. Boom, Hunter. I'm like, you just have that in your camera roll? Like, okay, I have pictures of my family and my dog, but okay, you do you with the Hunter nudes. But it's like, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where, you know, you have these characters who are like a bunch of maniacs, right? When they're in their own little bubble together, like they don't realize how much maniacs they are, and their behavior, you know, appears a certain way. When they go out into the world and confront normal people, it's just absolute pandemonium. And people are like, what the heck are you doing? What the heck are you saying? What is this? And that's what these Republicans are. Once they leave their bubble, once they put down their phone, and then they start spouting the things that they saw from a forward or saw from a Twitter thread or whatever it is, you know, they're confronted with reality, and people are like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not tracking your conspiracy theories, A. B, I wasn't even in office at the time that your conspiracy theory supposedly happened. So what the heck do you want me to do? And what the hell are you talking about? And then they're just like, wow, you're really not looking at that? Wow.
Yeah, that's their big rebuttal. They just go, wow. And you know why she was
Wow.
speaking so fast? People who speak that fast tend to have no confidence behind what they're saying or what they're even stating. So she was just spewing word. Like, it was word salad. Even when she slowed it down, I didn't even understand what she was getting at. She just wanted to say Hunter Biden's name and then go, wow. Wow.
And by the way, Bill Barr set up an entire field office, mind you. An entire office, Jordy, by you and over there in Pittsburgh. He set up with the U.S. attorney from Western Pennsylvania was a dedicated United States attorney to getting crazy information from Rudy Giuliani, who got the information from a Russian oligarch in Ukraine, a member of parliament who's just been charged with treason in Ukraine for working with Vladimir Putin. So they would launder it from Putin to Giuliani. Giuliani would then give it to this field office dedicated just to this topic of getting information from Russian oligarchs that would be funneled in. And now Bill Barr, as the theory goes in the MAGA world, Bill Barr deep sixed it. Bill Barr was a rhino. Bill Barr's in on it. Bill Barr, you see, according to their theory, the MAGA Republicans conspiracy, was trying to help out Hunter in their world. And now Bill Barr gets called, you know, and this is how you know, though, that their arguments aren't arguments at all. The moment they start going right into the ad hominem attacks and not giving you the data, already tells you they have no logical argument to make, right? So what do they go to Bill Barr? He's a fat slob. Chris Christie. I'm not going to call him a fat slob. What do? You call the people names. You go. Why go after the judge's law clerk if you've got a great case? If your case was a home run, why wouldn't, when Donald Trump was on the stand, to all you MAGA splainers out there, why wouldn't Donald Trump say, you know what? This is an important business. I looked through my data. Here's how I did the spreadsheet. Here's what I looked at. Why did Eric say, yeah, I do the spreadsheets. I'm very diligent. They go, no, I just give it to all of the other people and I don't ask questions and let everybody. Why wouldn't they actually just go through No, they're going to call Judge and Gore on these names. They're going to go after the law clerk. Jack Smith is deranged, maniac. Why don't you just deal with the evidence? And you could. I'm happy to have arguments, as you know, and I'm happy to go through the data. Like if we talk about Mar-a-Lago, just for example, you can convince me that Mar-a-Lago is valued at $150 or $200 million if it's a residential property. If he paid property taxes as if it were a residential property, we can have an honest conversation and I'd be saying, yeah, that's a valuable property. It's not $1.5 billion. That's absurd. But the reason that its valuation is because Trump made it that way. He devalued the property by placing historical encumbrances on it and saying that he intends to forever use the property as a club for commercial purposes so he could pay less taxes. So if we're not going to deal with an honest intellectual conversation, well, screw you. because you don't want to have honesty and facts and evidence. By the way, there are some Trump properties that I would say that's a valuable property, but why in the world do you need to say something that's 10,000 square feet, which is impressive? When people don't have 10,000 square feet penthouses in key area, that's impressive. Why do you need to lie and say it's 30%? I mean, 30,000 square feet. That's where the fraud's committed. It's impressive that you have a deal of a building that's 62 stories. That's impressive. But then you lie and say it's 73 stories. You keep on lying over and over again because you're so freaking greedy and you're a liar in everything that you do. Okay, let's talk about more things that happened in the past 24 hours. Senator Markwayne Mullin, this is where he challenges the witness to a fight. And he has the script like ready to go about the fight. Like he's like, so, and then he calls him cowboy. Like this is really weird. He's like, all right, cowboy. Here, play this clip.
Like he's self-made. Sir, I wish you was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution, every
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Actively.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond?
Hold it. If we can't, no, I have the mic. I'm sorry.
This is
hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing.
This is a hearing. We are in the United States Senate. Act like adults, MAGA Republicans. And you have Bernie Sanders there, who's the adult in the room, who's just saying, what are you doing? And by the way, Markwayne Mullin had to write that out. Like
You're a United States Senator.
He had that scripted.
That's a good Bernie.
He had that scripted. I want to talk about
He's been stewing on it, Ben, because he's been stewing on it.
Because this has been because this has been an ongoing kind of feud between the two of them going back months. There was another hearing that got contentious between the two of them back in March, and then Markwayne Mullin could not get it out of his head. He started talking crap about the Teamsters guy in June. Then the Teamsters guy fired off a tweet in June, and this is what Markwayne Mullin has been stewing about since June, mind you. It's now November, since June, and it was this tweet that had Markwayne Mullin is during a debate, I guess, or a news appearance, and he's standing on a box to appear taller on camera. And it's the tweet that Markwayne Mullin read, and it's pretty
short views. Notice how Markwayne Mullin that he left out the hashtag at the end of that. If you want to throw that tweet back up there, Brett, it looks like
hashtag.
What was it?
I don't know. Can you throw it back? It said hashtag.
Hashtag little man syndrome is,
and so that's what he's been stewing on for all of these months. Like, he's been going to sleep every single night since that tweet was made.
Man. He called me.
I'm gonna fight him.
When I get Markwayne Mullin in front of me, sit down. I need you all to sit down. You're a United States Senator. I need you both to sit down. Right. Watching Bernie in that was one of the
spectacular.
Oh my God. It's good to have an adult.
But by the way, Bernie, you learn a lot about people's character in moments like that, right?
Totally.
MAGA Republican Senator Mullin wrote that out. Bernie had no clue that was going to happen, right? And do you think that if Jim Jordan was running that committee hearing or James Comer was running a committee hearing like that, those MAGA Republicans, they would have intervened the way Bernie did? Bernie shut it down because he's an adult in the room. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for adults in the room. I want to talk about this other clip as well, because Jake Sherman, who is one of the top congressional reporters, talked about how a clip posted by MeidasTouch digital editor Asen of Chip Roy, a MAGA Republican, has really gotten under the skin of people in MAGA Mike's orbit, one of Johnson's aides mused that Chip Roy is like an arsonist complaining about the smoke. So that's one example of the Meidas digital editor, ASIN, crushing it there. By the way, the MeidasTouch story and post of the Georgia criminal RICO case of Jenna Ellis's proffer session and of the proffer session of Sidney Powell was featured in Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's motion to revoke bond of one of Donald Trump's co-defendants, Harrison Floyd. You see MeidasTouch featured there. And of course, MeidasTouch, our reporting has led to Donald Trump being held in violation of the gag order in the New York Attorney General.
Are we like 3 for 3? Like, I think we may be mentioned in some way in each of the major Trump cases right now in these legal filings with just the reporting that we have, which has uncovered some really incredible stuff. And shout out to our team. Thank you to our.
So I want to tell everybody before we go to our first quick ad break, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We don't have outside investors here. So if you want to help support the growth of this independent media platform and you can support the type of journalism that you're seeing there, that's patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Check that out. We have a lot of great exclusive content. We're going to do a great after show today as well. And on the after show, we're going to focus on some of the original OG MeidasTouch videos, which, by the way, we're going to start bringing back some of those videos as Meidas Shorts.
That's right.
I think I saw a rough cut of one today.
We're going to bring back some of the Meidas videos, and we got a lot more show for you right here on the MeidasTouch Podcast. So don't you go anywhere. Sit down. More MeidasTouch Podcast coming up right after this.
Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Using silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, so you get better sleep every night. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Miracle sheets are the perfect gift for your spouse, friends, or family. Who doesn't want better sleep and luxurious feeling bed sheets? And since these come with 3 free towels, you get 2 gifts in one, just in time for the holidays. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas to try it today or gift it to someone special this holiday season. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Save over 40%. And if you use our promo Meidas, MEIDAS, at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Meidas, trymiracle.com/MEIDAS to treat yourself, a friend, or loved one this holiday season.
Bidets are self-care for the selfless, because even busy parents use the bathroom, and they could take 5 for their health. The Hello Tushy Bidet makes bathroom time feel like a break that you're taking for yourself. Not to mention how much cleaner the Hello Tushy Bidet makes me feel rather than using wet wipes. And you should get yourself a Tushy too. Make the restroom your best room. With over 100,000 5-star reviews, see why millions of people already love the Hello Tushy Bidet. Now, every Hello Tushy Bidet attachment comes with a 30-day risk-free guarantee and a 12-month warranty. Hello Hello Tushy Bidet's fresh stream of water cleans your bum 2 times better than wiping. Even if you use wet wipes, you're still smearing all that grossness around and introducing nasty chemicals to your butt. Using a Hello Tushy Bidet also prevents poop particles from spreading to your hands and then everything you touch. It attaches to your existing toilet, requires no electricity or additional plumbing, and cuts toilet paper use by 80%. A Hello Tushy Bidet pays for itself in under a year. Take care of yourself from the bottom up this holiday season. Visit hellotushy.com/Meidas and use promo code Meidas for 10% off your first order. And don't miss out on their Spend and Get event going on now through November 18th. That's hellotushy.com/Meidas and make sure you use the promo code Meidas for 10% off your order.
Jordy going beyond the Call of Duty right there. Great.
Oh, Benji. I like that.
Yes, pun intended, I'm going to say on that one.
So the Miracle Sheets are actually incredible. Like my favorite sheets of all time. And I got to say that Tushy is like the coolest thing ever. So if
Tushy,
you're on the fence about either of those,
plus.
Right,
Links
so
in
if
the
you're on the
description.
fence, we got the links in the description.
All right, let's get back into it. All right, Kevin McCarthy allegedly assaulted Tim Burchett, another MAGA Republican. Apparently, when Tim Burchett was having an interview with the reporter, Kevin McCarthy, who was angry at Tim Burchett, who's been opposed to Kevin McCarthy. McCarthy has a history of actually getting violent with people. This is not unique. Like when we talked to Eric Swalwell, McCarthy challenged Swalwell to a fight. We know from Adam Kinzinger that McCarthy, McCarthy's known for actually physically going after people. That's how he views his domain in the House. And by the way, as I said before, why does he still get to use the @Speaker McCarthy? That's embarrassing. You're not the speaker. And why does he still get the speaker security detail? He should not have either of those things.
It's
and
a theme with this loser Republican Party, Ben. It's the same reason why Trump goes around and begs everyone to call him president.
Well, here's the thing. They're losers, and they're sore losers. And the same way they're made for each other, right? The same way Donald Trump refused to get out of power. Same thing with Kevin McCarthy. He still calls the same way they have to call Donald Trump President Trump in all of the filings.
Right.
Like you could say former president. It would makes me puke when people say that, but nonetheless, it's an accurate honorific, even though he deserves no honor at all. He dishonored this country so much, but you can say former, but they have to say president. He has to refer to himself as speaker. He's not the speaker. If he wants to be @former speaker, he can do that. And you don't get a security detail. You're just a rando member of Congress right now. It's absurd. But watch MAGA Republican Tim Burchett talking about how MAGA Republican Kevin McCarthy elbowed him in the kidneys. Play this clip.
Explain to us what happened with you and Kevin McCarthy.
Well, I was doing an interview with Claudia from NPR. A lovely lady, and she was asking me a question, and at that time I got elbowed in the back, and it kind of caught me off guard because it was a clean shot to the kidneys, and I turned back, and there was Kevin, and I for a minute I was kind of, what the heck just happened? And then I chased after him. Of course, he's as I've stated many times, he's a bully with $17 million in a security detail. He's the type of guy that, when you're a kid, would throw a rock over.
So then what does Tim Burchett do, MAGA Republican? Like, how do you respond to that in MAGA Republican world? Well, you then go on a right-wing extremist network and then reveal that you have Russian-style compromat on your target.
Normal.
So Burchett then goes on Newsmax and says that he's got dirt on Kevin McCarthy relating to MAGA Republican Nancy Mace, essentially implying that there is an untoward advance that McCarthy made towards Mace, or that there's something that she knows about him. Here, play this clip.
He also has $17 million in an account that he'll be messing in a lot of people like mine and Nancy Mace's campaigns, I'm sure. And so
I don't know if he does that with Nancy Mace. She could come back at him with some stuff that he doesn't want out there in the public, I think, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, she's already told me. She said, I hope he does that with me, and she'll take care of him. She takes care of her own. But
if you know what I'm saying here, I mean, they talk like the mafia. And I just want to be very clear, because I know legacy media gaslights everyone. that is not normal. So when you watch this and you go, that's not normal, right? And then we go, yeah, that's not normal. And then everybody in this pro-democracy community is like, that's not normal. I don't know how you feel watching this, but for me, it's like, thank you. Stop acting like there's both sides. Like they're actually crazy people, MAGA, right? Yeah, they are. Like, that's not normal, right? Yeah, that's not normal. That's not always the way it's been. No, it hasn't. I mean, it's never been like all peaches and cream. It's never been like rosy, but it is not like that's not the way it's supposed to be. And
you mean it's not good that our Congress people are running on blackmailing each other? That's how our government is operating. That's how they make decisions, via blackmail and compromise. The Republicans, I'm speaking
again. Another thing another theme that we've hit on the show constantly is that's how they hold their cards. They just try and find compromise on each other, and that's how they make their decisions. Who's got the best dirt?
It's what Trump does with all of them. It's what they do with each other. It's how Trump got them to come back to his side after January 6th. Just some threats, just some compromise, just some
saying
normal,
that's not a stable plan.
Yeah,
Trump threatened the RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel, who doesn't even use her actual last name, Romney, because that makes Donald Trump upset. And Donald Trump threatened her that he was going to start the MAGA party unless the Republican Party became the MAGA party. So then the Republican Party came the MAGA party versus a Republican Party and a MAGA party, and here it is. I mean, we're watching it. And speaking of the MAGA party, I mean, this guy is particularly, raises a lot of questions. This is Clay Higgins. Just a reminder, Clay Higgins was a police officer who was accused of police brutality and lying to investigators, and then quit before he could be disciplined from the force. And here is MAGA Republican Clay Higgins as he is questioning, again, Republican FBI Director Christopher Wray. And Clay Higgins is like, have you heard of Ghostbusters? Have you heard of the Ghost Buses or the Ghostbusters?
Is he Mark Levin's cousin?
and then Christopher Wray is like a normal guy. He's a Republican, but normally he's like, what? I'm sorry, I haven't heard of Ghostbusters. No, what are you talking about? Well, I've got an indisputable proof, blah, blah, blah. And then Christopher Wray is like, okay, here, play this clip. And then by the way,
then he threatens him.
Clay Higgins threatens him. Watch the threat, like actually threatens the FBI director. Play this clip.
If you are asking whether the violence at the Capitol on January 6th was part of some operation orchestrated by FBI sources and or agents, the answer is emphatically
You're saying no?
No.
You're saying no?
Not
Okay.
violence orchestrated by FBI sources or agents.
Are you familiar with what a ghost vehicle is? Director of the FBI certainly should. You know what a ghost bus is?
A ghost bus?
Ghost bus.
I'm not sure I've used that term before.
Okay. Well, it's pretty common in law enforcement. It's a vehicle that's used for secret purposes. It's painted over. These two buses in the middle here, they were the first to arrive at Union Station on January 6th, 0500. I have all this evidence. I'm showing you a tip of this iceberg.
Mr. Chairman.
These two buses
Mr.
are
Chairman.
painted completely white.
Point of order.
This is a very significant hearing, Mr. Chairman, and these buses are nefarious in nature and were filled with FBI informants dressed as Trump supporters and deployed onto our Capitol on January 6th. Your day is coming, Mr. Wray.
Mr.
He says, your day is coming, Mr. Wray, the Republican FBI director. And then he and other MAGA Republicans post that your day is coming, Mr. Wray. They're threatening a Republican FBI director appointed by Donald Trump with the most absurd and deranged. And if these people
it's pretty big in law enforcement.
These people weren't making life and death decisions, I would truly think that this is an SNL skit. And this is not a fringe figure, anymore. He isn't. These MAGA Republicans want to defund the FBI and DOJ. They say it out loud. Remember when they were trying to act like it was like liberals want to defund the police, and maybe there were some people more actually on the fringe, but that's not actually what Democrats were saying, but that's what they try to act like all Democrats wanted. They're out there, defund the FBI, defund the Department of Justice, and actually defund like the functions to go after terrorists. Like it is absurd. And I want to show you this one right here. This is.
I just want to say first, I wouldn't speak to like any human being like that. First of all, let alone the director of the FBI. Like, who speaks like that? And I just want to emphasize, especially for our audio listeners, that his entire theory, the reason that he was screaming at the FBI director, is because he saw a picture of buses that were painted white. He saw a picture of buses that were white. And then he said, that means that these buses are nefarious and are filled with FBI agents. What the hell?
And then because then the theory goes, the conspiracy theory, the QAnon style conspiracy, so that the FBI was responsible for the insurrection. There's been over 1,400 arrests of insurrectionists, like nearly 1,000 convictions. We have a detailed record of what went down, and what they are pushing is that deranged doesn't do it justice.
You know, that clip is disturbing, especially when he threatens Christopher Wray at the end. But it was also hilarious. Like when he goes, okay, and you could visibly see his brain shut off in that moment. And just like he had to totally like recollect himself before he started to spew the weird conspiracy. It's so wild.
Jordy, it's the issue with this kind of Russian style propaganda, but it's also why it kind of comes back to bite them always, because they spread these ridiculous lies that are just like, they're not even based in reality. To Ben's point, you can't have a debate with that person because that person is not living in reality. Like they may as well be on like hallucinogenic drugs or something, and you're trying to have a grounded conversation with them about really serious topics, but you can't. But you know, it's just a wild thing to watch these people spew this BS. And my favorite of the claims that people like Clay Higgins make is when they go to their base and when their base goes, we need to release the January 6 tapes. That's going to reveal all of it. And you know what? There's a reason why every time a new speaker, as they cycle through these speakers, as they get a hold of this footage and they go to give it to people, there's a reason why they don't just release it en masse to the public. Because we've all seen the footage already.
We've seen it that day.
We've seen it. And what did the footage show? The footage showed a bunch of MAGA Republicans beating police officers, blinding police officers, bludgeoning them with flagpoles, with Confederate flags, with American flags, with stanchions, slamming windows. That's what the footage shows. And so even with Mike Johnson, I see one of the big complaints about MAGA with Mike Johnson. When are you going to release the tapes? We got to release the tape. Release the January 6th. What do you think it's going to show? What they gave him to Tucker Carlson, who's the biggest propagandist on the planet, right? If anyone could do something with that footage to make it look horrific for the pro-democracy side, it's Tucker Carlson. What did he do? He took 20 seconds of the QAnon shaman walking through the hallway and be like, look, he didn't look too violent there. That's all he had. So the longer that they kind of try to make these schemes go, the more it's going to backfire, because the angrier their base is going to become that they're withholding something, when the fact is you're just being lied to, guys. You're just being lied to. Like, aren't you embarrassed? Don't you feel a little bit of shame? Don't you feel a little offended by these people who just continue to lie to you day in and day out? Are you going to keep paying for that Daily Wire subscription? Are you going to keep paying to watch Tucker Carlson or whatever the heck you're doing? Like, you are suckers. You're suckers, man. Like, just snap out of it.
I'll show you. Next up is MAGA Republican Chip Roy, who was pissed that MAGA Mike was basically bailed out by Democrats. They made up something. Like, if you're like, I'm hearing this term, Ben, a laddered CR, a laddered continuing resolution. Do you know what that means? I mean, I do now, but they made it up. There's no such thing as like ladder. You just fund the government. You don't hear about these issues when Democrats are running the House, because you have an obligation under the Constitution, the most basic function of the House. You just keep the government working. Like at a bare minimum, you do that. And then hopefully, You can pass bills that become laws, but at the bare minimum, just keep this thing going. So the whole idea of a laddered continuing resolution is like, we're going to fund part of the government. We're going to make it really complicated and make no sense. So we're going to fund part of it through January and then another part through February. And we're going to disentangle it. And then that's going to create a lot of pressure. But the MAGA Republicans like Chip Roy, what do they want? They want to shut down the government. Why? Because they want anarchy. They want to just be able to say, because they know that in chaos, you know what? Fascism is able to fill a void in chaos. So what's coming from the MAGA Republicans is, let's just freaking trash this country. Let's trash it. And then someone could come along and say, I alone can fix it. Let's forget about the fact that I'm the one who caused $8 trillion in debt. $8 trillion Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans caused. The most ever. The most debt ever. They printed more money than any other administration. They're responsible for more than 25% of all of America's debt in American history. They didn't do the benefit. I mean, it is wild. And then they have the audacity. And here's the kind of asymmetrical warfare is that, like, after you do something like that, I don't know how you can then look people in the face and then lie to them. But that's what's called being a MAGA Republican. They don't care. They can so easily, the same way they go, you know about them Ghostbusters? You know about them Ghostbusters? They can look you in the eye and tell you freaking anything, which is a wild thing. And we as human beings go, no one would do that. That's such a big lie. That's why big lies work, because we can't even fathom that all of it is false. And it's like, wait a minute, they're just totally playing it. It's all false. They did $8 trillion in debt. They did. You're telling me, Ben, they voted against infrastructure. And now they're at the infrastructure project saying that they voted for. They can't possibly. They must have voted for some portion of it. Nope. They voted against it. But there they are at the infrastructure. They are liars. They are sociopaths, sociopathic behavior. That is what it is, and we have to call it out. So here's MAGA Republican Chip Roy, who basically, as his retaliation against MAGA Mike, cut an ad for Democrats and says, we don't do anything. The Republicans, we don't do anything for the American. We don't do anything for the American people. And this is what Asen clipped, which is now got Speaker MAGA Mike all pissed off. But shout out to Asen, patreon.com/MeidasTouch, and the editorial team for finding this. Here, play this clip.
One thing. I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, one, that I can go campaign on and say we did. One. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done besides, well, I guess it's not as bad as the Democrats.
You know, all they do is spread lies about President Biden, and it's all projection and confession. And so when you hear James Comer saying things like, well, you know, he's got LLCs and shell companies and they moving around like this. Okay, James Comer, the MAGA Republican who heads the Oversight Committee, he's from Kentucky. He used to be the head of the agricultural department in Kentucky when he was a leader in the state house. He ran the agriculture. Then he had oversight in the agriculture committee when he was a member of Congress. Okay, and what do you think his line of business is? If you guessed agriculture, ding, 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 ding. And do you think that he had shell companies and LLCs and gave his brother, you know, had shady deals with his own brother when he was one of the regulators? That part of the story doesn't get enough attention. He was the regulator of himself. And he's doing all of these shady deals with
the definition of corruption.
Has all of these, exactly. He has all of these LLCs. So what I love is you have Democratic Congress member Jared Moskowitz just calls him out and says, yeah, but you have these deals with your brother. It's been reported in the Daily Beast and elsewhere. Watch. And this is something you'll always see with these MAGA sociopaths. You see it with Jim Jordan. You see it with James Comer. The moment you speak logically, what do? They either literally punch you in your kidney, or because they don't have logic behind them, they go, and as I like to say, a hit dog will holler. They don't shut up. They interrupt you no matter what it is that you're saying. They don't let you get your points in. And they go, no, you gotta let me speak. No. And it looks like petulant third grade children. If you are so confident in your idea, James Comer, then you could say, everybody, I want to go and explain what the situation is. Let's go through it. Here's the LLC. Here's what happened. But you know what they do? They call you names. And you know what he called Jared Moskowitz? He goes, you're a smurf. You're a smurf? I mean, he calls the guy a smurf. Play the clip.
But you and Goldman, who is Mr. Trust Fund, continue to try to
reclaiming my time.
No, I'm not going to give you your time back. We can stop the clock. You all continue to. You look like a smurf here, just going around and all this stuff. Now listen,
Mr. Chairman,
I'm going to tell you something.
Hold on. If we're not on time, we
can
disinformation. You have gone on TV and said the president did something illegal. You're doing stuff with your brother. The American people have the same questions. Why should they believe you? Why should they believe you? Why should they believe you? There's a different rule for the president. There's a different rule for you. Why should they believe what you're saying, Mr. Chairman? Why? You go on Fox News and say loans and deals are a way to evade taxes. We don't know that's what you're doing or not. We don't know. We have no idea. We're supposed to take your word for it. But when the president
you've
says
already
something,
been proven a liar, Mr. Moskowitz.
What's that?
You've already been proven a liar.
Who's proven me a liar? You?
Yes.
Your word means nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Go to my hometown. There's a camera crew there today, an opposition research crew there today.
Mr. Chairman, this seems to have gotten under your skin.
I'll pay for your ticket.
I think the American people have lots of questions, Mr. Chairman, and perhaps you should sit maybe for a deposition.
I will be happy.
Smurf. So Moskowitz is I love
he's sealing the deal, Brett. He's sealing the deal for the Croy. Congressional
Rookie of the Year. He goes, who called me a liar? You? Yes. Your word means nothing. You lie about everything. Why do I care if you called me a liar? What are we doing here? But that was so great. And he was so on his feet because that's one of their tactics of a sociopath. You've already been proven to be a liar. And you know what? A lot of people would think to themselves in that moment, did I miss something? He goes, who's proven me to be a liar? You? And then he cites himself as evidence. He says that he's the arbiter, that you've already proven to be a liar, and then you're a smurf, and you're a this, and I'll pay for your trip, which sounds corrupt. You're going to pay for the trip to determine how corrupt you are. Again, a hit dog will holler. And here's Moskowitz calling out Comer's use of innuendo on Fox. Play this clip.
All I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, is you may have done nothing wrong. No,
but you tweeted that I did.
I'm claiming my time, Mr. Chairman. There's a story out there, right? Because we believe everything in the media. Like when you go on Fox News and say things and everyone says that they're true with innuendos and ifs and maybe, the Biden family, the crime family, all this nonsense. But when it happens to you, it's fake news. And what I'm saying is there should be the same. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. There should be the same standard. You said at the beginning of this hearing, the Biden administration can't have it both ways. Neither can you, Mr. Chairman. I yield my time back. Thank you.
So you admit that it's fake news. You admit it. That's not what he's saying. I mean, those tactics right there are tactics of sociopaths. Those aren't legitimate bases for arguing with ways that are logical. And one of the things that we always talk about here on the MeidasTouch Network, and sure, it may take a little bit longer than a 2-minute soundbite, but I always want to go through the evidence. I want to go through the data. I want to go through the documents. That's what's so important. And when we talk about these court proceedings, we trust or hope that we have people in the judiciary who also care about data, who want to see the documents, who want to have process and procedure. Now, one of the problems with MAGA is they want to erode our judiciary and put patently unqualified people in positions of power like Judge Eileen Cannon. one of the fortunate things, a really good thing about President Biden's presidency, which does not get enough attention, is that he's appointed a record amount of federal judges to district courts and circuit court of appeals who are law and order judges who are going to be there for life appointments. But on the other hand, with Donald Trump, when he was in power, he appointed people like Judge Eileen Cannon. And here's my beef with Cannon, among a number of other things. There's well-established law on these issues. A lot of these issues are not complicated. There are complicated things that happen in a trial, but when you're involved in a CIPA case, a Classified Information Procedure Act case, because it involves classified information, there's well-established law. These aren't novel issues about how you handle these as judges. The reason you don't hear about these issues in Washington, D.C. in the federal prosecution of Donald Trump is not because CIPA issues don't exist. They do. Just Judge Chutkan handles it in a workmanlike way, and they're non-issues because they should always be non-issues. You follow what the statute says. There's CIPA Section 3, Classified Information Procedure Act Section 3. By the way, this statute, CIPA, was passed by Congress decades ago. You've got CIPA Section 3, which is the protective order. Took Judge Cannon 3 months to enter the standard protective order. You just enter it. When a case starts, you sign it within a week or two. It's not a complicated thing. Maybe you want to have a little bit of back and forth, but there's a standard form. And she's never had a CIPA case before. So you've got CIPA Section 3. Then you've got CIPA Section 4, which involves the government withholding discovery of really classified stuff like nuclear secrets and other really sensitive compartmented information. And you make a petition to a judge in what's called in-camera review. And the judge decides, does this have to be turned over to the defendant? Or do you move to other CIPA sections which allow you to do substitutions or removing the document or summarizing a document instead of turning over a classified document? Then you have CIPA Section 5. CIPA Section 5 is a defendant, a criminal defendant's notice where they've received classified information, what documents they intend to rely on at the trial. And you have to give the government notice on CIPA Section 5 early on because you want to avoid something called gray mail, which is a form of blackmail where a criminal defendant says, aha, I'm going to show the world in my public trial these classified documents unless you don't dismiss the case against me. So dismiss it or I'm going to show you. So CIPA Section 5 creates guardrails around that happening by the defendant having to show the court early on what documents they're going to be showcasing or they intend to showcase. So the government on CIPA Section 6, that has the government's objection, substitution, summarizing the document instead of actually showing the document because we don't want our nuclear secrets getting out in public. So when Judge Cannon set a scheduling order back on November 10th, where she kept the May 2024 trial date, but then set a scheduling conference on March 1st, one of the things I said in my hot take right away, this is missing the key deadline. If you go back to my hot take, I said, she's missing the CIPA Section 5 deadline in a CIPA case. That's the main deadline in a case like this. And so if you wait to do CIPA Section 5 after a scheduling conference, remember, then you still have to get to CIPA Section 6, and then all of those issues will undoubtedly be appealed based on what Judge Cannon's going to do. So her scheduling order missed the date. So Special Counsel Jack Smith last night informed her, hey, did you miss that date on purpose? Or you want to include it because that should probably fit in your schedule on December 18th because all CIPA cases have CIPA Section 5 schedules built into their scheduling order, and yours didn't. So is that a mistake, Cannon, or was it intentional? Her response in a paperless order was, yeah, that's intentional. And I'm going to make a ruling after March 1 on CIPA Section 5 deadlines, which makes no sense at all. But you may be saying, Ben, so Special Counsel Jack Smith should run to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeal. Why isn't he removing her? Well, Judge Cannon learned the exact wrong lesson, or for her, the right lesson from what happened in 2022. She ruled quickly and was overturned quickly when she issued a final order that was appealable. She knows she's going to get overturned, but what she's doing is issuing these paperless scheduling orders, which are not substantive orders on the merit relating to SEPA. She's viewing this as, I'm just moving my calendar around, and trial judges have almost absolute discretion. So you can't appeal me, and you really can't appeal a judge making scheduling decisions. So she's treating these in paperless orders as scheduling issues. And then she's blocking this May 2024 date to try to make sure that from May to August, no other cases can go, when it is an impossibility that the case can go. Now, what do I hope the response is? Well, I hope that the Fulton County District Attorney looks at this order and now requests a trial date for Donald Trump right in that June or July period. And I hope Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis says, even though, it says it to Judge McAfee, even though Judge Cannon has kept this May date, by not setting a SEPA Section 5 schedule, it is impossible that that case goes to trial. So Judge McAfee, why don't you set your trial date for June or July? And if we have to move it, we can move it. But we know that Judge Cannon is playing games. That's how I would strategize this. If I'm Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, that would be my response. And Jack Smith, unfortunately, is a bit stuck right now. As long as this is being construed as scheduling, he can't make that interlocutory appeal right now. But that's how I would respond if I'm Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, or if any of them happen to be watching the show. Who knows? Maybe they watch the MeidasTouch network. But I hope I was able to break that down for you in a way that is, I know it's a complicated subject, but to me, the facts matter. And ultimately, I want the evidence to go before the judge, not the judge to say, I don't want to look at the evidence right now. So that's your update there. Just a quick update in the Washington, D.C. case. Special counsel Jack Smith has filed his response to Trump's appeal of the gag order there, saying, look, Donald Trump's engaged in more threats right now, even since you've lifted the gag order based on an administrative stay. So that's what's happening there. I'll give you the quick update in New York. The appellate division lifted the gag order there on an administrative basis, and Donald Trump went right back into attacking Judge Engoron's law clerk. And you may say, well, why is the first appellate division doing that? Well, the administrative stay is different than a full stay. It's kind of as a matter of right, and it's fairly procedural, but then it goes in front of a full merits panel, and then you argue before the merits panel in the appellate division. So we'll keep you posted when that happens, but they lifted the stay, and what does Donald Trump do? Attacks Judge Engoron's law clerk, knowing that that's going to encourage people to harass her. Again, it's despicable. I want you to argue facts and law, and let's talk about evidence. They want to attack people. He's calling people vermin. They're calling you Smurfs. And that is the way they behave. I'm not okay with that. I'm just at a basic level. I'm not okay with a nation that, I don't want bullies. We're so much better than that behavior here, regardless of your political party. It is such disgusting conduct. Anyway, when we come back from our next quick break, we're going to talk about some positive news about the economy, President Biden's summit with President Xi, and more. I want to remind everybody about patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We don't have outside investors here on this network, but we are growing quickly thanks to your support. Already on digital, more people watch us here at the MeidasTouch Network than CNN, Fox, or even MSNBC, thanks to your support. So if you're able to, that's patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Let's keep on growing this together. And we have a fun after show planned for you today. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk about some President Biden news. We'll be back after this quick break. Did you know that poor sleep can cause weight gain, mood issues, poor mental health, and lower productivity? Sleep is the foundation of our mental and physical health and performance in our days. Having a consistent nighttime routine is non-negotiable. When I don't get enough sleep, trust me, you don't want to be around me the next day. Introducing Beam Dream. You know we've been raving about Beam's Dream Powder, their healthy hot cocoa for sleep. And today, our listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their best-selling healthy hot cocoa for sleep, with with no added sugar. Now available in delicious seasonal flavors like cinnamon cacao, sea salt caramel, and white chocolate peppermint. Better sleep has never tasted better. Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, melatonin, and nano CBD to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. A recent clinical study revealed Dream helped 93% of users wake up feeling more refreshed, and 93% reported that Dream helped them get a more restful night's sleep. Just mix Beam Dream into hot water or milk, stir or froth, and enjoy before bedtime. I've personally tried Beam Dream. It certainly lived up to the hype. It was delicious and just a lovely nighttime routine. And secondly, and most importantly, it helped me fall asleep and stay asleep. Find out why Forbes and New York Times are all talking about Beam and why it's trusted by the world's top athletes and business professionals. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, take advantage of their biggest sale of the year and get up to 50% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Meidas. The discount is auto-applied at checkout, no code necessary. That's shopbeam.com/Meidas, MEIDAS, for up to 50% off. That's shopbeam.com/Meidas.
This episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast is brought to you by Manacora Honey. Now, I knew honey was good for you, but this honey is at another level. This is a superfood, a super honey, and it's one of those miracles of nature, so just hear me out. Manacora makes Manuka honey, a single origin super honey that comes from New Zealand, where the bees only feed on the nectar of the Manuka tea tree, making something that's pure, rich, and complex with a creamier texture that's completely different from the normal honey that you find at the supermarket. You can use it as you would any other honey, but what puts the super in Manuka honey is that it's impressively rich in antioxidants and prebiotics. It's 100 times more, in fact, compared to the regular honey, as well as natural antibacterial compound called MGO that only comes from the nectar of this tea tree. The bottom line is that these nutrients really support your optimal immune and digestive health. And it's delicious, so it's a win-win. You can continue to use honey in all the ways that you know and love, and you can enjoy all the health benefits of MGO as well. Manacora sent me a jar and squeeze bottle of their 850 plus MGO Manuka honey, their best-selling honey. The 850 plus honey has the creamy caramel texture that melts in your mouth, and it's unlike anything that I've ever tried before. I can grab a spoonful out of a jar to put in my favorite beverage or squeeze some honey out on some toast or oatmeal. It's so delicious. Manacora is delicious. The texture and quality of the honey is just unlike anything that I've ever had. If you head to manacora.com/Meidas, you can get $25 off their starter kit, which comes with an 850 plus MGO Manuka honey, a free travel pack honey stick, a free wooden spoon, and also a free guidebook. Now, I love the jar and squeeze bottle, but the extra pack of compostable honey sticks is perfect for whenever you're on the go. You can take them with you whenever you're traveling, or if you need a quick snack while running errands, it's the perfect energy boost. That's manukora.com/Meidas to get $25 off your starter kit. You haven't tasted or seen honey like this before, so indulge and try some honey with superpowers from Manacora.
Manacora, love it. What I don't love is when I have to read these ethics reports that just detail just how horrific George Santos is. I like when there's levels of accountability, but as I was reading this like nearly 60-page document, I wanted to do the opposite of what I do when I try Manacora. When I like Manacora, I'm like, oh, this is really good. When I read that, I'm like, ugh. It's really just kind of puke worthy. His behavior, but his behavior is consistent with, unfortunately, what we've come to expect of MAGA. And I showed you that clip earlier where Kevin McCarthy said when he was on that show, when he was being asked, how do you feel? And he's saying, well, I'd rather have Santos in charge than President Biden. It's just like, you're not serious. This is not nothing that you do is serious at all. And it's just ridiculous. So we learn more about Santos funneling a ton of money to like buy OnlyFans memberships and to buy himself luxury items. And then he put on his financials loans that didn't actually exist so he could make himself seem wealthy. He hasn't even bothered to amend the forms either. Like he knows they're lies and he just like kept them. Like he hasn't changed the forms is one of the things they called out. He like steals people's credit cards. Like he's actually like stealing people's credit cards and then running the credit cards is one of the things that the DOJ's alleged. He's got his, his treasurer and all of his other campaign people have pled guilty, and they're testifying against him. It is abhorrent behavior. He's announced that he's no longer going to seek a 2024 term. My expectation is that he's going to take a plea agreement, would be my guess. And I think we'll hear about that in the next few weeks, because I think that part of the plea agreement that's being, I could be wrong about this, but I'm trying to read between the tea leaves here, is that he won't run again, or he'll leave. So he's not doing it out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing it as part of I think, negotiation with the DOJ. But we will see.
Ben, I think there is a chance that he does get expelled. We'll see what happens in a couple of weeks, just because they said they're going to bring this expulsion to the floor again. That'll probably happen between Thanksgiving and Christmas, because, after all this chaos, Ben, you know what the Republicans had to do? They took a freaking vacation. They decided, you know what? That's it. We're gone. It's Thanksgiving. I'm like, Thanksgiving isn't until next week. It's not until next week. What are you talking about? You're taking a vacation. They did the same thing after they had all the chaos picking the speaker. Right after they picked the speaker, early weekend. See you next Wednesday. I said, see you next Wednesday. It's Wednesday right now. You're taking an entire week off. They reward their bad behavior and just take all these breaks. And then they have the nerve to be like, President Biden's in Delaware this Sunday. Yeah, he's working there actually, though, while you're sitting on your ass wherever you are. Mm-hmm. But I think there is a chance this time we're going to see what happens. Never trust this Republican Party to do the right thing. But one of the things that a lot of these Republicans and a lot of Democrats also who voted against the expulsion of Santos said is we need some form of due process here. And a lot of Republicans have come out today following this report saying, yes, this constitutes due process. We had an investigation. It turned up some really bad stuff, some things that even went beyond the Department of Justice's investigation here, and I will now vote to expel him. So we will see what happens. They obviously have OnlyFans. He spent thousands of dollars.
There was some really, more damning reports. Here's the thing. This whole Santos thing, if you're an avid listener of the MeidasTouch podcast, it's deeply personal to the brothers and I, because we grew up in New York's third. He represents our district. And so the people of New York's third are smart. They're honest. They're hardworking people. They're wonderful people. And to be so just callously taken advantage of, I just know from my personal experience around hanging out in the community, they have to be livid that this guy is still around. And hold on, I actually also think, Ben, real quick, that to Brett's point, he will get expelled, but not because the Republicans are finally living up to their moral standards or anything like that. It's just the evidence now is so damning. They know that they'll have the majority until 24, right? And so a very, very slim majority be it. They know that they could afford to lose that seat and try and save face for their districts when they go back and say, no, we expelled them. We let the report play out and we expelled them.
Yeah. And Brett, here's what I want to ask you about. So you got all the chaos over there. And as I said, it's not a moment in terms of our economy to spike the football right now. Although if Donald Trump was in power, he would be spiking the football all the time. And you better believe the front page of the New York Times and Washington Post would be calling this a boom, a renaissance, a manufacture. I guarantee you that if Trump was in office with the economic achievements right now, every one of these legacy media would be saying, brilliant, mastermind. That's all you would hear about. But what you hear about right now doesn't meet the reality. And this is where I want to be evidence-based. And so, Brett, I want to learn about the data. Give me the data. And first, if you can talk about the summit in California and why it was so important. And then if you can talk to me about the economy. I know a lot of people who are watching, you want us to talk a lot about this, and we should talk more about this. But when you're having conversations with family members and friends and coworkers, I want to arm you with the data. And it's incumbent upon all of us to push back against the lies. And the same way legacy media is now coming around to because we're relentlessly showing that Donald Trump has all these cognitive issues and how threatening he is, we're starting to see narratives don't just develop on their own. They arise from somewhere. So what we have to do as it relates to the economy is just speak the facts as loud as we're doing about criticizing MAGA chaos. Brett, talk to us about it.
Yeah, well, there was a historic meeting this week with President Biden and Chinese President Xi, and they, relationships between the U.S. and China have been pretty frosty for a little bit. Like, let's be honest. Remember, there was the balloon incident. There's been a lot of sort of instances near China, around Taiwan. There's been a lot of tension. And so the fact that this meeting happened, it was extremely high stakes. President Biden and President Xi were in a meeting together for, I think, over 4 hours. Hours and hours and hours discussing all these incredibly delicate and important issues. And they ended up making some real progress and making some real deals. I mean, this is foreign policy. This is diplomacy at its absolute best. So Biden and Xi, they struck deals on military communications. Military communications between the United States and between China have been on pause. There's been no contact whatsoever for a while now. President Biden and President Xi resumed military to military communications. As President Biden said, this is going to make us safer because we won't have these same conflicts that we have right now in Asia, around Asia. We can actually be speaking to one another. There cannot be an incident that happens by accident. And if there is a problem, guess what? Xi could pick up the phone and call me directly. I could pick up the phone and call him directly. That's the agreement that we made. So here's President Biden speaking about reopening these military to military communications.
This is critically important. We're reassuming military to military contacts, direct contacts. As a lot of you press know, follow this, that's been cut off and it's been very worrisome. That's how accidents happen, misunderstandings. So we're back to direct, open, clear, direct communications on a direct basis. Vital miscalculations on either side can cause real trouble with a country like China or any other major country. And so I think we're made real progress there as well.
They also spoke about fentanyl and that, China was going to work to curb the fentanyl output that they have in their country because a lot of that is coming to the United States. China promised they'll go after specific chemical companies that make fentanyl precursors. Xi also wanted to reassure Biden about the Chinese intentions towards a democratic Taiwan. This has been a big issue of contention, and Xi made his word with President Biden that he would not do anything unprovoked there with Taiwan. There was an interesting moment at the end where President Biden was actually asked about, okay, so how do you trust someone like President Xi? And he basically invoked Ronald Reagan on this one. And he says, well, the old saying, trust but verify. That's what I'm going to do here. I'll trust, but I'll verify. We're going to be keeping tabs on each other, and we'll make sure that he is adhering to our agreement. Other things that they spoke about were AI. Obviously, AI is growing right now. It's like the internet is starting, all over again with the birth of AI. And with that comes incredible consequences, especially when AI is weaponized by governments. So they reached some agreements on AI, how to deal with the threats posed by AI, how to use AI appropriately. This is obviously an incredibly important topic going forward. They also spoke about the climate. The United States and China are the world's two biggest polluters. So having discussions between the United States and China on climate is an incredible step forward. They pledged a ramp up. China pledged a ramp up of major renewable energy. Biden, of course, has already promised that, but reiterated those promises to Xi. They're going to include wind, solar, battery storage. That's the plan to help run each country's massive energy sector. They also agreed to do a countrywide economy-wide reduction of all greenhouse gases. So a lot of productive stuff there. And this all comes in the background, like Ben was saying earlier, like the U.S. economy right now is blowing China's economy out of the water, and it's not even close. China's economy size slipped to 64% of the size of the U.S. economy. That's the largest gap between the growth of the U.S. economy and the Chinese economy. This is the first time that we've seen this happen in over 40 years. Like, this is a very incredibly rare thing, and that's just the beginning of the economic news. You have inflation last month growing at 0%. No inflation whatsoever last month. That's absolutely huge. And you saw the markets react very positively. I know a lot of Democrats don't like to speak about when the markets are good. I think we should probably talk about when the markets are good, when they're good. I think that's a good thing to actually speak about. And the markets rallied this week. Like the Dow Jones is up like something like 1,000 points because finally people are seeing that looking down the road, these rate hikes look like they're going to end. And not only the rate hikes going to end, but it looks like the rates are actually going to come down, these interest rates. And now that timeline has been pushed up with some analysts thinking that the rates could come down as early as March 2024. So just think for a second as we head into 2024 and you have inflation falling at the rate that inflation is falling at. Then you have these interest rates coming down. You have the markets thriving. You have the other economic indicators, the GDP surging, right? You have GDP last month, 4.9%. You have these job numbers, 14 million jobs under the Biden administration. You have unemployment under 4% for 21 straight months, the longest stretch in 50 years. You put all this together, I think 2024 is going to be the economic comeback story. And I think it's going to be the time that people actually feel this economy, because one of the big disconnects that we've talked about on this show is that the economic data is so strong. It's so good, historically good, like the best ever. The problem is folks are not feeling this mainly because of inflation that's lingering and because of these high interest rates. Money is more expensive to buy ultimately, which hurts businesses and could hurt people. And so as you see these interest rates start to peel off, as you see more of a free flow of cash, as you see all these other numbers start to kind of take hold in people's psyche, I think it's going to be a bit of a process, but I think you're going to see a big turnaround on people's perceptions on the economy, and perception is absolutely everything. And you'll see this Bidenomics messaging pay off, I think, in 2024 when people realize, oh, wow, the markets are good. I got more money. Like things are looking good. I have a job. I didn't have a job a few years ago. I'm getting higher wages than I've ever gotten before. I think you're going to see this great American comeback story, which has not exactly been felt by Americans, but that I think will be felt in the coming months. And, Frank Luntz of all people was talking about the prices of items that were coming down. And I think this is indicative of how Americans are going to be feeling this relief. And remember, Frank Luntz he's a GOP guy, like a GOP strategist, right? GOP pollster. He wrote prices that have dropped in the past 12 months. Eggs have dropped 22.2% in price. Lettuce, 4.5% drop. Apples, 3.9% drop. Butter, 3.7% drop. Fresh fish and seafood, 3.6%. Health insurance, down 34%. Airfare, down 13%. Car rental, down 9%. And I could keep going on. And gas prices.
Healthcare? How much?
Health insurance, minus 34%. Medical
Health
care,
insurance
minus
down 34%. Wow.
So you have all this data, right? And it seems like, and obviously we can't predict the future, but it seems like this is the trajectory that we are currently on. You put this over the course of the next year. Things are going to be looking a lot different in the next year. It's going to be a lot harder for the Fox News of the world, and they're obviously going to do it anyway. And these Republican politicians to try to use and weaponize Bidenomics as a bad thing when people are like, wait, the inflation actually isn't that bad right now. Wait, I have a new bridge in my neighborhood. That's cool. That bridge has been broken for a very long time. The Infrastructure Act built that. We're seeing the tangible things now come into play. And honestly, at a time when it's very needed as we head into 2024. And so I think that's very good news. I think that's news that we should all be spreading. And there you have it. That's my economic update. That's my foreign policy update.
Because here's what legacy media's giving away the game. And we know where they're headed with this. They want to do the horse race. They're okay with fascism if that brings them more money. We know their game. What's going to make this different, though, is this unapologetically pro-democracy community who's not going to take it. We're going to push back together every time they come up with a headline that says, Donald Trump seems less this and may be this. I want to show you this headline. because I think it sums it all up about here's the game of legacy media. I'm not even going to show you Fox and all of the kind of right-wing stuff because we know that that's just pure disinformation, right? That's just pure lies. Let's just look at it again. We've been talking about New York Times headlines. This one is particularly egregious right here. So the headline from New York Times says, "Why Trump seems less vulnerable on abortion than other Republicans." And then the subheadline, "He appointed judges who overturned Roe, but his vague statements on the issue may give him some leeway with voters." Now, notice the language that they use. And this is one of their tactics that they use to create the horse race. I want to flag it for you so you're aware of it. Seems, may. And it is because a narrative is being pushed that doesn't match the reality. It is self-fulfilling and intentional. American people, if you give them the facts, it will seem the way the facts are. And when we're building this network here, this community that you're all creating, I want headline matching fact. And so that's how I view it. Are you telling me what it is that I see, or are you gaslighting me? So right here, let's test this headline. Why Trump seems less vulnerable on abortion than other Republicans, and they quote his vague statements may give him some leeway. Vague statements, seems, we know better. Play the clip.
I got rid of Roe v. Wade.
I'm the one that got rid of Roe v. Wade.
I was able to do it, and I was very honored to do it.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form. There, of course, remains a vital role for the federal government in protecting unborn life.
Nobody has ever done more for right to life than Donald Trump. Roe v. Wade, they won. They finally won.
The Iowa bill was signed, and they wouldn't have been able to do anything if I wasn't able to do what I did.
Don't tell me how it seems. Don't tell me may. Tell me what it is. And I will tell you what it is by sticking to the facts. And that's what we do here at the MeidasTouch Network. I want to thank everybody for watching this episode. Now, if you are able to, no worries. If you can't, we don't have outside investors. The way we've built this brick by brick is through that Patreon. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We want to keep growing our editorial. We want to keep building this company as we approach 2024. So any way that you can join that Patreon.com/MeidasTouch will be helpful. I'd ask anybody who's a member of our Patreon, and we now have over 10,600 patrons strong who are a part of that community. If you're able to put in the chat below, if you think the exclusive features are worth it, put in the comments in case anybody's on the fence. All right, you guys keep talking about Patreon. And it may be annoying. Let me just acknowledge. Let me concede this fact.
No.
It is probably annoying that I talk about Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. And I see from time to time comments being, all right, Ben, we get it. Shut up. Stop saying Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. But here's the thing. I either go a path or from the outset, like a lot of these things, you go out to investors, you do it that way. They tell you what to do. I don't want to do that. Frankly, I really don't want to do that ever. Okay. And so I have to find fun ways to build this network. And as I've said, probably not the greatest business model to be like, are you looking for outside investor? Go, nope. I'm doing emojis through the little $ thing on YouTube with Judge and Goron emojis and some of the prosecutors as emojis. And separately, I'm doing patreon.com/MeidasTouch. So when we talk about our pro-democracy sponsors, when I talk about patreon.com/MeidasTouch, I hope you will indulge just a little bit of me being slightly annoying so I could try to continue ways to build this network and get the results that we are so proud of here. On today's after show, I want to go through some videos, including the video that Brett made right after the insurrection called A Coup in Plain Sight. This was before the January 6th committee hearing, and I want to show you how spot on the presentation was, especially with all of the facts that came out after. I want to show you that, and there's a few other videos I want to show you, including our Wizard of Oz video, which I just think was a great one, and then one of the other ones that I think we'll be seeing a lot more of in 2024. Thank you all so much. It's such an honor to be a part of this unapologetically pro-democracy community. Share this channel. Tell others about the MeidasTouch Network. Be ambassadors for this unapologetically pro-democracy network like we know you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you next time on the MeidasTouch Podcast.
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty!
The Meidas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.